struggle before another. Many Americans of British origin were two ways torn. It was New England which had first rebelled against King George. The memory of rebellion, long distrust of British policy, some irritation at the sight of the Union Jack in Canada just over the border, conflicted with an instinctive condemnation of German aggression. Affection towards France, which had helped the colonies in their rebellion and then imitated them by becoming a republic, also worked against pure neutrality. But there were 15 million vocal Irish Americans whose forebears had been forced to emigrate by hunger and poverty, for which they could not easily forgive their English oppressors. There were millions too from Russian territories, Poles, Ukrainians, Jews, with memories of pogroms and the secret police, who loathed the notion of a Tsarist victory. And there were over 11 million Americans of German descent, many of them powerful figures, able and willing to put forward Germany's case.
What grudge had England against Germany, except that Germany has grown commercially, financially, and industrially to a position which threatens to crowd England into a second rank. Jealousy appears to control this English attitude. And what is Germany fighting for? Does she want anything from anybody? She wants to be left alone.
The delicate equilibrium of American sympathy was soon disturbed. Germany's invasion of Belgium outraged American opinion. Life magazine wrote,
"If we see anything right at all in all this matter, Belgium is a martyr to civilization, sister to all who love liberty or law. The great unconquerable fact of the Great War is Belgium."
Strict impartiality was easier to proclaim than to preserve. As the impact of war sank in, invasion, destruction, atrocity, authentic or not, American opinion swayed upon a deep underwater tide. Yet this tide of pro-British sentiment might be reversed by the exigencies of war itself. The exercise of British sea power had always grated upon America. Now Britain's blockade of Germany meant the interception and searching of American ships, the seizure of contraband cargoes. A flood of protests poured into the White House. The British Chancellor of the Exchequer, Lloyd George, wrote,
"Germany's chief power was on land, Britain's on the sea. Germany's invasion of Belgium, her devastation of France, might arouse disinterested wrath in America, but it did not touch American pockets. On the other hand, Britain's firm measures to prevent contraband of war from reaching Germany, and her wide and constantly widening interpretation of contraband, caused serious inconvenience to American shipping and direct interference with American business."
Left to itself, this friction might have developed into a fatal sore. Once more, it was German action which swung the tide of sympathy against her. U-boat attacks on unarmed merchant ships, sinking them with their crews aboard or left to die in their boats, were more shocking than the Royal Navy's blockade. Moreover, the loss of America's trade with Germany proved not to be such a blow. She found a new and insatiable market. The Allies were prepared to buy all the munitions that America could make. A temporary slump turned into an unprecedented boom. Righteous sentiment and self-interest might go hand in hand after all, an ideal circumstance for judicious propaganda. In the field of propaganda, the Allies enjoyed a vast advantage. At the outbreak of war, the Royal Navy had ripped up the German transatlantic cables from the ocean bed. Only the Allies now possessed direct access to America's public ear. As the months went by, the Allied version of events loomed ever larger in the American press. Gradually, the true meaning of neutrality was eroded. Yet for a while, its outward forms remained. And in May 1915, there were great issues at home to distract American minds from Europe's war. Prohibition was one of them, a cause which stepped into every home. Already 14 states had gone dry, and a nationwide campaign was demanding the total prohibition of the sale of alcohol. There were dissenters. Campaigners for women's rights were active, and the women, on the whole, also supported prohibition. In May, the fastest British liner afloat, the Lusitania, was leaving New York Harbor for Liverpool. Aboard were 2,000 passengers and crew, and 5,000 crates of ammunition for the Allies. The day before the Lusitania sailed, the German embassy in Washington published an announcement in the American press. This warned that Allied ships, including passenger liners, were liable to be sunk by U-boats. It meant that the Lusitania's passengers traveled at their own risk, but few of them paid much attention. On May the 7th, Commander Schwieger's U-20 was waiting for her. She fired 2 torpedoes. Her commander noted in his log,
"Great confusion on board. Lifeboats being cleared and lowered to water. Many boats crowded. Come down bow first or stern first in the water and immediately fill and sink."
1,153 people went down with the Lusitania. They included 114 American citizens. Some of the Lusitania's dead were brought to Ireland for burial. The American press blazed with indignation.
Germany has affronted the moral sense of the world and sacrificed her standing among the nations.
The sinking of the Lusitania was deliberate murder.
Once more, the pendulum of American sympathy took a violent swing. Now, suddenly, it was no longer just a question of which side America favored. It became a matter of whether America herself might fight. Theodore Roosevelt said,
"This represents not merely piracy, but piracy on a vaster scale of murder than old-time pirates ever practiced. It is warfare against innocent men, women, and children traveling on the ocean, and our own fellow countrymen and countrywomen who are among the sufferers. It seems inconceivable that we can refrain from taking action in this matter, for we owe it not only to humanity, but to our own national self-respect."
Amid all the passion, President Wilson kept his head. The principles of a lifetime sustained him.
The example of America must be the example not merely of peace because it will not fight, but of peace because peace is the healing and elevating influence of the world, and strife is not. There is such a thing as being too proud to fight.
Proud, certainly. Rich, too. America was now the arsenal of the Allied powers. Her booming prosperity was closely linked to their fortunes. If U-boats could not check the flow of vital war material from America to Europe, Germany must try other ways. She turned to sabotage. Warehouses and factories supplying the Allies were burnt down, bombs were planted. A huge German espionage and sabotage ring was uncovered, with evidence that it had spent nearly $30 million of German government money, disbursed through the military and naval attaches. America insisted on their recall. Her relations with Germany deteriorated further still. Yet the months went by without any definite consequence of America's ripening hostility towards the Central Powers. The anniversary of the Lusitania's sinking approached. It was April 1916. Suddenly, once more, the pendulum took a counterswing. From Dublin came news of the Easter Rebellion in Ireland.